Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Dock Talk. I'm Cam, and Julie's not here. And this is not a dock because it's now my front porch. It's so pretty outside, I thought that we would do this week 184A on the porch. Julie and my calendars got a little crossed. She is in the middle and coming to, I shouldn't say in the middle, she's coming to the end of her Ironman training, and we are so proud of her. So sometimes our timing isn't quite right. I am trying to do this outside. I can already hear the plane, and we may have some traffic in the background, but hopefully we can get through that. If you'd like to see previous years, we have Doc Talk 39A and B, 91A and B, and 137. No A's and B's, just 137. So last week we ended, I should tell you this, it's Leviticus 9 to 11:47. So last week we had a little conundrum, right? We were talking about in Numbers 7 how the Israel, each of the tribes, bring their offerings. So they bring a part of, I guess, their gifts that is going to be used inside of the tabernacle, as well as offerings. I think a sin offering, and a sin offering, peace offering. So all these are brought, and we were talking about whether it started back to Exodus 40, verse 1, where it says it's the first of Nisan, the first day of the first new moon, making that the first of Nisan, what we call Nisan today, month 1, for Israel. And whether that's when the tabernacle was established. However, where we are this week in Leviticus 9, 10, 11, Leviticus 9 and 10 are coming into the 8th day, so that would make it Nisan 8. So the question was, did they bring from number 7, all these verses, did they bring their offering? The tribe of Judah brought theirs first. Did they bring it on Nisan 1 or did they bring it on Nisan 8? And that was a question. And we talked about the fact that they gave it to Moses. Maybe that hinted to 1. However, I think that once we look at the surrounding chapters and verses of chapter 7 in Numbers, we might be able to maybe piece the puzzle together a little bit more. There are some key words that help us. In number 7, verse 2, it says that they drew near. Okay, it talks about them drawing near. But if we go to the end of this chapter, let's go to, number 789, it says, and when Moses went into the tent of appointment to speak with him, the Lord, he heard the voice of the one speaking to him from above the lid of the atonement, that was the ark of the witness. From between the two cherub, thus he spoke to him. So what this tells us, this is not the tent of appointment, remember earlier in Exodus where Moses pulls his tent away and he goes and the Lord meets him there. Okay, this is definitely in the tabernacle, okay, because this is the cherubim and the Lord is meeting between. Now we're going to go over to Leviticus. Let's go look at Leviticus 9. In Leviticus 9 verse 5 it says, and they took what Moses commanded before the tent of appointment, and all the congregation drew near and stood before Yahweh. Okay, so all the congregation stood, drew near. That's what we had in verse 7, all right? Chapter 7 of Numbers. Now let's go down to the end. I'm going to go look at verse 22. So now we're at Leviticus 9:22, and it says, Aaron then lifted up his hands toward the people and blessed them, and came down from making the sin offering and the scent offering and the peace offerings. All right. That's verse 22. So here we have Aaron is doing the offerings. Remember, he's doing these offerings because he's now at the end of the 7 days. This is the 8th day, and the ordination is done. He's now taking over that role. He's not really taking over Moses' role, but where Moses was doing everything for Aaron, that Aaron and them couldn't do, Aaron is now taking on the role with his children, or his sons, to be able to do this for the people. So he's going to be the go-between in the tabernacle for the people. If you remember in Exodus 40 at the end, it says that Moses and Aaron, no one could go in to the tabernacle. Yet here we have Aaron coming, he's blessing the people, and then in verse 23 it says, and Moses and Aaron went into the tent of appointment and came out and blessed the people. And the glory of the Lord appeared to all the people. Now, the glory of the Lord, that's what happened. Really, the fact that the Lord brought his glory was in, I guess, really as a reward, I guess you would say, showing the people that they were in good standing, for lack of a better way to say that. The reason why I say this is because if we look back further up in chapter 9, verse 6, we see, and Moses said, "This is the word which the Lord commanded you to do, so that the glory of the Lord will appear to you." So he's telling Israel that taking the offerings, and that's what was just before this, he was telling the children of Israel, on the 8th day, Aaron's going to do it, and now the children are going to bring it to Aaron to complete the offerings, okay? And this is going to bring the glory of the Lord. So you notice it says that back in verse 22, it's after Aaron completed all of these offerings that the Lord, or that Aaron and Moses go in and the Lord's glory comes, okay? The glory of the Lord is to all the people. Okay, so there's 2 points in this verse that I want to point out that's going to take us back to Numbers. I feel like a Seinfeld. You know, you always start here and you go back. If you ever watch Seinfeld, that's always the way it works. It's kind of the way my brain works. Okay, so first of all, we have Aaron blessing the people. Now, this is very important because when we go back and find out in Numbers 6, at the end of Number 6, you know what? That's where the blessing is told to Aaron what he's going to say. Now, I'm going to go over to Number 6, verse 22. I find that interesting. It says, "And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, This is how you bless the children of Israel. You say to them." All right. So this is what Aaron and his sons are going to say to Israel. The Lord bless you and guard you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and show favor to you. The Lord lift up his face upon you and give you peace. This is how the Lord instructs Moses to instruct Aaron how to bless the children. So this is Number 6, right before we go into 7, where they're going to draw near. And if we're back in Leviticus, this is in chapter 9, right as the people are drawing near. Okay, so if you see, it's crossing over. What happens sometimes is we want to go, Leviticus happened, and then the book of Numbers happened, and then Deuteronomy. It's not really. Numbers carries the whole span, because in chapter 7 of Numbers, it starts with when Moses dedicates the tabernacle, and in the end of 7 is when now Moses goes in. Moses doesn't go in until Leviticus, the end of chapter 9. Okay, so let's just think about this. Leviticus 9:22, Aaron is blessing the children. He's blessing them with the Aaronic blessing, okay? Then in 23, verse 23, Moses and Aaron are going in, okay? It's done. The Lord's allowing them in. Now watch this. Let's go back to Numbers, but now we're going to go to Numbers 8, which is obviously after Number 7. I'm going to suggest to you that Number 7 actually begins on the 8th day. And it will end on the 20th day of Nisan, because there's 12 days in which they bring their gifts. That being stated, what that will do is put that 12th day on the 20th day of Nisan, which interestingly enough is the day that they're at the Red Sea, that it parts when they're going across. Pretty interesting, isn't it? That this would take us through the Passover, those 12 days from Nisan 8, which is the 8th day, which is the inauguration of Aaron and the full finishing of bringing Aaron and his sons in as the priesthood, okay? And then everything starts, the party starts. Then we have these 12 days that we see in Numbers of them bringing gifts. And in Numbers 7, verse 84, it says, "This is the dedication of the altars from the leaders of Israel." Okay, so this is having to do with the dedication part again, right? We know that chapter 7 is happening. So actually, chapter 6, chapter 7, and part of chapter 8 of Numbers is overlying with Leviticus, we'll say 8, 9, and 10, okay? Now, back to, or still in Numbers, okay? Let's look at Numbers 8. I love this. Numbers 8:1, it says, "And the Lord and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and say to him, when you ascend to trim the lamps, let the 7 lamps give light in front of the lampstand. And Aaron did so. And he set up the lamps to face toward the front of the lampstands, just as God had commanded. Okay, so let's go back to Leviticus. Leviticus 23, Moses and Aaron go in. This is the first time. You know, Aaron has been taught by Moses what to do outside for 7 days. But now Moses is bringing Aaron in. Well, he's got to show him what to do inside. If you remember in chapter 40 of Exodus, Moses lights the candles. He lights the lampstands when he sets them up. So these have been burning for 8 days. 7 days, and on the 8th day they're coming in. I love this because it makes me think of Hanukkah, okay? Like here we have the candles that Moses burned as they're setting the tabernacle up, right? They're cleansing it, they're getting it established, reestablishing, rededicating, or dedicating it. There are 8 days that the lamps inside burn from what Moses did. I love it. I love that hint to Hanukkah, the 8 days of lights burning. With the reestablishing of the tabernacle. Just fascinating. And it'll be so interesting if something like that happens again when the temple is reestablished. I don't know. We'll see. Just, it is a pattern. So anyway, so the first thing they do is when they go in, Moses is like, hey, here's how you're going to do. The first thing you need to make sure you do is the light. Make sure that the light, the menorah, the light of the world is going to be lit. Because remember, through the breastplate of the high priest, there'll be communications, okay? So that light is very important to provide light because there's no windows in there, so you can see what you're doing. And of course, the glory of the Lord, his light is behind the veil, so there's probably, some light may be creeping under, I don't know, but we need that menorah. We need that for the speaking to the Lord, our Lord speaking to Israel through Aaron's breastplate. We need that for just providing light in there, right? And because it's a great example of we've got to keep that fire burning. The Lord kept it burning for 8 days, and now he's going to make sure that now man gets to roll over. It's interesting, in chapter 10 of Leviticus, God doesn't speak to Moses at all. The Lord speaks to Aaron, and Moses speaks to Aaron because this is all a learning lesson of what's going on. In 10 about this death and how to go through that, how to properly respond, okay? And then he's given this important message directly from the Lord, and that's in 10. It says, so as to make a distinction between the holy and the profane, and between the unclean and the clean, and to teach the children of Israel all the laws which Yahweh has spoken to them by the hand of Moses. So here we find that another part of not just tending to the tabernacle, another part of the priest's duty is to make sure that they share the actual laws and these practices that they're practicing every day on behalf of Israel, so Israel can go about their business being a light to the nations outside. So I guess really the conundrum idea that we had, to me, is answered. I feel quite confident that on this 8th day, on the day that this is happening, that the Lord brought his fire and sent it out, that this is when the tribe of Judah, the first tribe, brings their offering. How appropriate is that? That the tribe of Judah, who our Messiah, the King of Israel, comes to bring his gift. And we'll talk more about that in Numbers because there's some significance about not just Judah, but also the wording of that verse versus compared to the wording of all the other leaders that come. So I have come to say that I'm comfortable with saying it's the 8th day that all these are brought. It does go all the way through Passover to the day, the 20th of Nisan, which is when they would have been heading to the Red Sea, which is when the Lord completely brought them out of Israel, killed the enemy, and did everything. So what a great puzzle piece to stick into the timeline of what all is happening here. One other thing that I want to say that goes with the 8th day that we don't see in Leviticus, and I would say because Leviticus is all about the priest and what the priest is going to do, and people, but how we're interacting with the priest, with that intercessory, okay, that go in between for us, that I would suggest that in Numbers 8, we see another aspect of what's happening on this 8th day, and that is the Levites are now being identified as they're also going to serve on behalf of the nation, not like the priest, but accompanying the priest as helpers, I guess you'd say. But that's in Numbers 8, we see that that's when they're being identified. Remember, all the gifts that they're bringing in number 7 is going to be given. Part of that goes to the priest, but a part of it's going to all the Levites who are carrying the items with the wagons and the poles and things that are needed to transport this tabernacle when they move. So again, gosh, I just love how Leviticus and Numbers, those cross, they work together to give us a bigger picture of what's happening. Anyway, I was so excited when after reading, I was like, well, okay, my conundrum is no longer a conundrum. I now feel confident that this is the order. Feel free to share if you disagree, not a problem. I love this, just digging through the Word, putting all the pieces together. Anyway, I'm going to let you go because I'm past my time by far. I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we should see Julie on the flip side with Acts coming at you a little bit later. Y'all have a great day, and shalom.